thank you for coming out in this awful weather to spend some time with your other voters this evening on some important town matters. Couple of announcements. The clickers. If you're clicking tonight and you get an X up on the screen, just keep clicking until you get the response that you want to submit. If you happen to have a problem after continued clicking, someone will help you. Don, raise your hand. Don will come up and help you get started. Okay. We follow Robert's Rules of Order during our town meetings, and that's a maximum of speaking 2 times on the same subject. So if you've got lots of information you want to share it with somebody else so that you won't get over that 2 per person. Please use the microphone in the front of the hall. These meetings are recorded and we need accurate minutes. And if you're yelling from the back of the hall, they're not going to show up on the recorder. And if you need to speak, I see people standing in the back of the hall. I don't know if you're going to speak or if you're standing there. So I will pan from left to right every time I'm looking for input from the audience on every article. And if I do miss you, just wave to me or come down to the front because you'll have to use the mic. And you hear this all over the newspaper every day. Please respect the opinions of others. We're here to gather together to do what's best for the town, in your opinion. And people have different opinions. We all do. That's what makes us who we are. So please respect others' opinions. Okay, let's get started. We do have a form, by the way. Article 1 this evening will be read by Finance Committee Chair Tom Kane. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Pledge of Allegiance. Sorry. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Okay, Chairman Kane. Okay.
I move to pass over Article 1.
The moved and seconded to pass over Article 1. There has been a second. Can we have an explanation from the Finance Committee?
Yes, the Finance Committee repeatedly presented a report on the current state of the town's finances. Given the singular nature of this special town meeting, we have not prepared a report.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to pass over the article, take your clicker. Number 1 means you are in favor. Number 2 means you are opposed. Please vote now. Voting has concluded. 96% in favor, 4% no. That was a majority vote required, and therefore it passes. Article 2, Vice Chair Ward, please.
Now I'm just going to have to...
Madam Moderator,
Yes.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $1,394.86 for the payment of prior year bills as outlined in the special town meeting warrant.
We have a motion. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to move Article number 2. Would the maker of the motion please speak to the motion?
Madam Moderator, this is a typical housekeeping article. A 9/10 town meeting vote is required to pay bills from prior fiscal years. The 2 bills in question are from fiscal year 2022 and are highlighted in the special town meeting warrant, $747.62 I believe these were for flower displays for Memorial Day, and $647.24 for KP Law. Again, these were bills that were towards the end of the year, didn't get paid in the proper fiscal year, they have to be paid now.
Does anyone else have a question or a comment? Hearing none, this requires a 9/10 vote in order to pass. If you are in favor of the article as presented, 1 means yes. If you are opposed to the article as presented, vote no. That is number 2. Please vote. And it is 95% in favor, 5% opposed. The motion carries. Article 3. And starting with these articles, I will ask for the Finance Committee and the Selectmen positions on each article. Article 3 will be read by Selectman Anderson, please.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash to some $40,000 for broadcasting equipment upgrades and staff support in town hall as presented.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve article number 3 as read. Would the maker of the motion please speak to it?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The broadcasting equipment in town hall is severely outdated. This is part due to the old Comcast agreement that did not provide enough resources for regular capital improvements, and as such, the equipment has been failing and is beyond repair. Most notably, the hardware that allows for live broadcasting across the internet failed in May 2022. The Communications Committee has been negotiating a new contract with Comcast over the past year that would address this issue. The new recently approved agreement allows for a significant increase in available resources for repairs to our broadcasting infrastructure. We are proposing the use of $40,000 of free cash to make a larger than typical one-time investment that will set up our broadcasting equipment for the next 5 to 10 years.
Thank you. Does anyone in the audience have a question or comment? Please come down to the microphone, please. In the meantime, while she's on her way down, this will be a majority vote article.
Just my question is, because the Finance Committee didn't do a report, how much money is in free cash currently?
Finance Committee have an answer?
It's approximately $1.3 million.
$1.3 million was the response. Does anyone else have a question? What was the vote of the selectmen on this article?
Board of Selectmen voted to approve, 5-0 to recommend.
Thank you. And the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommended 6-0.
Okay. Hearing no other questions, we'll proceed to vote. If you wish to vote in favor of Article 3 as read, press 1 for yes. And if you are opposed, press 2 for no. Please vote. Polling has closed. Again, majority vote, 83% in favor, 17% opposed. The article passes. Article 4. 4 will be read by Chair, Recreation Commission Chair Bradley.
Article 4 is request to replace Recreation Commission and Community Park.
Can you speak up, please? Sorry.
Then you need to read the article.
To see if the town will vote to amend the general bylaws of the town of Richmond as recommended by the Recreation Commission and Richmond Community Park Committee, as shown below with the text, to be inserted with underlying and text to be deleted and crossed out.
Are you moving that motion?
Yes, I need
It has been moved and seconded to approve Article number 4 as presented. This is a 2/3 vote, which is required. Will the maker of the motion please speak to your motion?
This is to reduce redundancies regarding the programming and for the volunteers that are also duplicated in a lot of the activities, and to have a streamlined calendar, and to take care of the media, all of the promotions that we need to get on.
And is that in addition to the explanation that was presented to the voters?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Does anyone have any questions of Chair Bradley? Hearing none, vote of the selectmen.
Board of Selectmen voted to recommend this article 5-0.
Thank you. Finance Committee?
Unanimously recommended 6-0.
Thank you. Hearing no further comments, I don't see any of your hands raised, please vote on this article. If you are in favor of Article number 4 as presented, press 1 for yes. If you are opposed to the Article number 4 as presented, press 2 for no. Please vote. Polling is closed. 79% in favor and 21% opposed. That's a 2/3 vote. That passes. Article 5. Article 5 will be read by Community Preservation Act Exploratory Committee Chair Romanowski.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I move that the town vote to accept section 3 to 7 exclusive of chapter 44B of the general laws, otherwise known as Massachusetts Community Preservation Act, pursuant to section 3E and a half, chapter 44, establish a property tax surcharge, 3% of the taxes assessed annually on real property, provides further, however, that in accordance with said section 3B and a half, to the extent permitted by law, the town shall, if grants, gifts, and other revenues are donated or appropriated to the community preservation fund, prior to setting the tax rate, reduce the surcharge accordingly, but in any event, to an amount no less than 1% of the taxes assessed annually on real property, such that the surcharge and supplemental appropriation shall together not exceed 3% of the taxes assessed annually on real property. And further to adopt the following 3 statutory exemptions as set forth in section 3 of chapter 44. 1, the property owned and occupied as a domicile by a person who would qualify for low-income housing or low or moderate-income senior housing in the city or town. 2, for $100,000 of value of each taxable parcel of residential real property. And 3, for $100,000 the value of each taxable parcel, Class 3 commercial property and Class 4 industrial property, as defined in Section 2A of said Chapter 59. The such vote be implemented in the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023. Provided further that should the same be necessary, the select board is authorized to file with the general court a petition for special legislation to carry out the purposes of this vote. And and should such legislation be needed, town shall be deemed to have accepted the Community Preservation Act with a surcharge of 3%.
Thank you. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to approve Article number 5 as presented. Would the maker of the motion speak to the motion, please?
If approved, this article would place the Community Preservation Act on the May 1st, 2023 annual town election ballot. If passed at the ballot, this would enact a less than 3% annual surcharge on real estate bills in Winchton. Resources would be restricted by law to projects involving the preservation of open space, affordable housing, recreation, and historic preservation. The surcharge would include exemptions for the elderly or financially qualified citizens. The formula used would also forgive $100,000 in taxable value of all properties. All funds collected would be matched annually up to 100% by the state, providing available funding in a given year, and would be managed by an independent citizen-led committee. All spending of funds would require a town meeting vote, ensuring the voters of Winchton always maintain strict control over the funds.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions or comments? If so, please come to the front. Yes, please come. I can't hear you. You need to come to the front of the microphone to be heard.
Yeah, I just want to raise my hand first.
Okay. Thank you. And while he's coming to the front, this is a majority vote question.
Question actually today, what are the figures for low moderate income or lower moderate income that is exempt from this tax if it's filing? Do you have those figures?
I don't have those figures. I'm going to turn it over to the town manager.
Thank you. So they're based and updated annually by HUD, Housing and Urban Development. So while I can't give you the exact figure at the moment, what I would say is that it's something that's determined on the federal level. But in addition, if somebody, by example, currently qualifies for heating fuel assistance, then you would qualify to be exempt from this as well, because they use the same figure.
Does that respond to your question?
No, but I was looking for a hard figure.
Selectman Ward?
Using the figures that were put out by Public Housing in Winchendon, a low-income person is a person who makes $50,200 a year total income. And if it's a two-person house, $57,400 is the income, according to the Winchendon Housing Authority.
Okay. Any other questions this evening on this article? Are you coming up? Come on up.
I just have a comment to make on this. This article was written in the Voice Telegram for Worcester, who shot this down in October of this year, and it alludes to the amount of money that you will possibly get. And I quote, "As more municipalities participate, the funds match has decreased from 100% to one that fluctuates. In 2017, it was 17%. 2022, 35%. They don't even know what the percentage you'll get. There is no guarantee in any way, shape, or form that you're going to get 100% matching funds for all the money that you put in. Because it also alludes that as more communities enroll, the money just gets divvied up more and more, and it doesn't go to the poorest, it goes to those who are first in line. So this ain't a 100% guarantee that your money's going to get doubled if you put in.
Thank you for your comment. Do I see someone standing? Please come to the mic.
Hey, my name's Adam. I'm on the CPA committee with a bunch of other citizens here. Sorry, I've been working in the CPA committee with a bunch of other citizens here. The funds are distributed progressively. The state has a rubric by which it determines eligibility based on income, land value, and perceived need. Winchton would be close to the top, if not the top, of that tier system. So while the while the match percentage does fluctuate from year to year, and while if every single town in the state were suddenly to adopt it, that pool would be being split among many more, that adoption process is slow and gradual. And the match for towns in Winchendon's tier is going to be the highest of any eligible tier of communities in the state.
Thank you. Someone else? Oh, please come up. Come on down. Yeah, form a line. That'll save us some time.
So are there any specific purposes in mind for this bill for uses within the town? Yeah.
Mr. Romanowski?
No, there are no specific projects being cited at this time. That would be up to the citizens of Winchendon, as well as a committee that will be formed upon passage of this bill.
Beth Hunt, are you coming down? I didn't see you standing back there. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Beth. My question of concern is I'm not even going to challenge what the proposal is. It's something that I would love to see brought back up in the future. I do question it being brought up at this time. I think you said it's like, what, $13 per 1,000 is what we're looking at as an increase? I don't know who thought, you think on
Okay, for the CPA, it's based on the value of your house. If you have a house valued at $281,646, your surcharge would be $73.02 each year. And of course, it goes up, or goes down from that value of your house. That's already, the 100,000 is already figured into these quotes. So that $281,646 house, the tax is $73.02 surcharge with that $100,000 deduction already figured in.
So it would be less.
No, it's going to be $73.02 after you did subtract the $100,000 deduction.
Okay.
Okay.
And if you qualify for that.
Everybody gets that.
All right, thank you.
You only have to qualify for the low income.
And then the other question I have, because I know I've seen this happen in the past. Now, we do have, don't we have a depth exclusion or something going on with Ashburnham for our water? I mean, isn't that something that we voted in?
Sure, I can speak to that a little bit. And actually, two pieces to add on what Rick mentioned. When he said it could go down, I heard a couple chuckles in the audience because taxes never go down, right? So what you're thinking of is a typical tax formula for your real estate bill, in that if the value of your property goes down, then typically the tax rate goes up. If the value of your property skyrockets, like you probably saw in the past year, then the tax rate goes down. At the end of the day, your tax bill keeps marching forward. That's just the way it works everywhere. In this instance, though, where it's not tied to a specific levy limit, if the value of your house does go down, that 3% never shifts. So realistically, it is true that if the value of your house dips, which honestly, given what the housing market is softening, that you'll probably see next year, there would be a decrease. So just to add to that, Rick. To answer the other question that Beth had regarding the main transmission line from Ashburnham, there hasn't been a figure yet that's been determined. But I think it's a fair question, and if I could add to your question, what other expenses do we have floating out there that might come down and land on the Winchendon taxpayers' plate? So the water line, and we had covered this pretty extensively at the special town meeting on October 24th. We're trying effectively to back into a number on that. We know that the cost of the water transmission line is about $9.5 million. What we don't know is what we're able to bring in with grants. We don't know yet, we haven't heard from the state, despite what the Garden News might say, whether or not we're going to qualify for forgiveness or a low interest loan. So ultimately what ends up landing on a real estate bill would be whatever's left after we can get rid of those other pieces. The other question is how much can we absorb in our general operating budget? And realistically, how much would be absorbed in the water enterprise budget as well, something that we worked pretty hard over the past 2 years to fix. And it's now showing retained earnings for the first time in about half a decade. So that's a long answer to a short question. But ultimately what I'd say is, thus far, there hasn't been a firm figure put out for that water line. In all honesty, if we do a good job and we bring in a decent amount, I don't think it's going to be as astronomical as a figure as people necessarily anticipate, and there realistically may even be an opportunity to have not even hit your tax bill at all. If it's something that can be covered through the water enterprise.
All right, so the only other thing I'd like I said, once again, I think this overall thing is not a bad idea. I do have concern with today. We're living in an economy right now that is not that stable. We're watching everything increase endlessly. So $75 here, $180 here, $65 here. You know as well as I do, everything else has gone up tremendously. I'm just not sure if this is a good time for our community to go for this. I'm not saying I'm against it, I just think timing's everything. And right now, we're kind of all over the place if we haven't noticed. Thank God we're not baking in California.
I think when they designed this building, they needed another one.
Good evening. So I don't really have a question, but I do have a comment to piggyback on what was just said. For me, it's not a matter of, I'm not sure this is the time. My personal opinion is this is not the time. We're coming out of a year where gasoline has been up. I don't know about you, but my electric bill just practically doubled. How many of you have gone grocery shopping lately? We have a water line that was just mentioned. I also found out at the last meeting, because I'm fairly new to town, that we've been living with a dilapidated fire station for years and haven't been able to do anything about that. So that is coming down the pipe and needs to be dealt with. So I just want to state publicly that I am against this, and I will be voting no on this for that reason.
Hey again. So two counterpoints or two thoughts on that. One is one of the most recent examples of projects that Pendleton has done, our neighbor Bissell, is use CTA funds matched by the state to pay for some of the fire station rehabilitation. So those kinds of, oh sorry? Oh sorry, I was just saying fire station rehabilitation, which we heard so much about the last town meeting, is an example of things that CPA funds, aka state match funds, are eligible for. So while we all agree that's something we want to spend money on, we could pay for 100% ourselves, or we could let the state match and take some of that tax burden off of the taxpayers. The other thing is, with interest rates going up, everything is getting more expensive, and that includes borrowing, which I think is an interesting reason to try to take some tax burden off of the 100% things paid for by the town, and avoid that borrowing cost, that interest cost that eats into the financial status of the numbers.
Thank you. Mrs. Santos? Hi, Susan Santos, Mill Street. I just had kind of two quick questions. One was that I noticed that the Board of Selectmen, 3 recommended, 2 did not, and would like to hear from those that did not, on why or what their decision was. As well as, I just had a quick question. There's rumors going that, or hearsay that there is either minimum or maximum that the town will become able to receive. So I guess if somebody from either the CPA or the town could specify in regards to how much. I know we have quite an amount of capital projects. You know, we have the town hall, the roof, we have Murdoch Senior Center, we have quite other, historical buildings, and the CPA would be beneficial. However, again, I was told that, once we apply for it, we only get a certain amount, and I don't know if that's true or not. And so for those that are voting, these buildings and projects are high dollar amounts. So If we're not going to be able to use the CPA for them, that kind of just makes some of these decisions a little bit easier. So, thank you. Thank you, and I will get the reasons behind the votes when I ask for the votes of the Selectmen and the Finance Committee. Mr. Ward.
Just I have a question for clarification. It was just mentioned that in some nearby town, the fire station benefited from these funds. Now, I'm looking at the categories, and it's open space that can be spent for historic preservation, recreation, and public housing. So unless our fire station, which I do not believe is a historic building in town, I really don't think we can use that money for our fire station. If we can, I would like that explained.
I see the chief is here. Do you have an answer to that, or is that?
Madam Moderator, I can, over here, I can speak to it a little bit.
Okay,
So I think that Vice Chair Ward hit the nail on the head, and if I had to guess, it was a Templeton, I think it might be a historic firehouse, and that may be why. But I think this also kind of dovetails with Tina's question, and the question is, realistically, how much can the community take in from this, between both the contributions from the residents as well as contributions from the state, and whether or not that's capped. So we talked a little bit about the sliding scale. We did talk about that in Winchendon's current economic condition, we would receive roughly 100% match at this present time. Once again, it's dependent on funds from the state, but at this present time, we would receive 100% match. What does that realistically mean in terms of real-world dollars? I think maybe the question, the second part of Mrs. Santos' question. So, by example, the old Murdoch, which everybody has seen wrapped in a tarp for the past 3 years or so now, start to finish, the restoration cost of that building is about $5 million. That's come out of a mix, a little bit from Robinson Broadhurst Foundation, and a majority out of town coffers from you, the residents, a $5 million expense. If the town of Winchendon had passed the CPA when it was implemented in the early 2000s, the state contribution alone would have paid for that project start to finish. Just from the state. We wouldn't have had to pay the dime. And I think that's kind of an important, that is an important piece of that. So what does that come out to in terms of real world dollars? It's about $250,000 from the residents of Winchendon annually, and about $250,000 match from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So over the past 20 years or so, that would have covered that $5 million expense. And that there is no cap, they don't cut you off.
Thank you. Are you with a question? And then I'll get the two of you, okay? I will ask the vote of the selectmen after all the discussion is done, and then they'll have the opportunity to say when they voted against.
My name is Stacy Brooks Reedy. I'm curious what the time frame is, if in fact this is passed, from when we start paying to when the benefits would be seen.
Mark Dorward, I'm also on the committee. If we're coming here after we adopt it happens at the same time every year that the money is dispersed. It comes in 3 rounds. Typically, the first 2 rounds are done at the same time. Historically, they've all been kind of done at the same time, but the last 2 years, the third round, which is up to the governor, has been delayed by months, and so that's a new trend that hasn't existed in the past. And I think we should be aware of that. I do want to correct something Justin said about the 100%. Yeah, we're about 100% match, but a town that is equal to us in the ranking system, that they create the ranking system for the third dispersion round. The second round you get if you played in 3%. The first round every town that's in it gets. The second round is if you played in 3%, you get a division of 20% of the initial fund. The third round is based on your decile ranking, which is based on your population and income and your property value of the whole town. So it works that the poorer you are, the more you get of the third distribution. And but the town that sits right where we sit on the numbers, that adopted in 2008, that is ranked as we are to get 100% in, from 2008 to 2022, they went from 100%, they dropped down to 98, they dropped down to 95, 75, 76, 100%, 93%, 86%, 61%, 61%, 63, 77, 90, and back to 100%. This is a town that's really similar to us in terms of the area, the population, and the valuation of the property. So it just gives you an idea that it's not like this set in stone 100% match thing. And I think that we need to be upfront and honest about what it is. I personally am for it, but not at this time. I've had a change of heart since I initially voted to recommend it. The town manager and the state representative gave a lot of pushback to me on concerns that I had, and my members, committee members had, about the adoption process and how the bylaws come about. And we were told that our concerns haven't been brought up in 20 years, and basically we're not doing it. And then the next day, I went to a meeting with the finance committee, and the chair and I believe the vice chair both had the same exact concerns that I have, and that I just a couple of days prior been told are not legitimate concerns. So there's some fishy things that have changed in my mind. I think we should wait to adopt this. I think that the CPA is really it's a good thing. It can do great things. It's designed to be separate from town hall's existing apparatus, and that's the good thing about it. The people get to vote on it, and I'll explain those mechanics, that hasn't been addressed. If it gets adopted, there will be a CPA committee that's based on 4 members from existing committees, 4 different town committees, and then there'll be, or 5. And then there's 4 elected citizen seats on that committee. That committee will come up with a way, their own process, meeting with the state guidance on how to select projects. And the way that works is people in the town, people on committees, people in town hall, citizens will apply for the CPA money. And then if it matches the eligibility standards of the state, it's quite strict and it's really controlled. It's actually a good thing. It's one time in our government the control is good. But so then it'll come to the committee, the CPA committee will choose which projects they want to put forward to these people at the town meeting. And then at the town meeting, at the end of the year, hopefully they've spent a year to do this. And this is one of the sticking points I've had, that we can't guarantee that they're going to wait a year and give everybody an equal chance to apply. But hopefully at the end of the year, they've gone through that, and then they come to town meeting, and they say, here's the project we think we should use the CPA money for. And then the town gets to vote yea or nay. So I don't know if I covered all my thoughts, but.
Thank you for your comments. I apologize for not seeing you. You were behind the television screen. I didn't even see you. Next.
Sorry, I just have a follow-up.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to say that I am not for the government sticking its hand in my pocket. This was and of course, so concerned about our historical buildings. Why can we not then have a GoFundMe or some kind of townwide fundraiser? Why does it have to go through the government? We put in 100% and get 50% back. I'm just throwing out numbers because I have no idea what they are. But why can't we do it ourselves? Make GoFundMe.
I appreciate your comment. Thank you so much.
Appreciate the creative ideas. And the working committee that did go through recommending this, but 2001 was, there was a comment from the town manager that if, correct me if I'm wrong, if I misheard this, that the cost of the renovations at Old Murdoch would be covered by this?
That is correct. So
And covered without having any taxpayer fund, but this is a matching fund, so in fact, there's no free lunch here, right? So it's a little, not quite square to say that it doesn't require taxpayer funds to get that money, right?
I guess so, more so, if I can clarify, and I apologize if you took it that way, if I can clarify, the point there was that that $5 million expense would have been picked up using state funding alone, once again, if it went through the process and then people, the community voted to support it.
So state funding alone, assuming that the town controls $2.5 million.
No, so, well, no, the other piece is that that $5 million, that the people of Winchendon would put into that hypothetical pot of money could have went towards any other expense in the world, within those four categories. So if there are any other, historic,
That's the semantic.
I'm just trying to
It's
answer the
still
question.
$2.5 million from the town to get a $5 million loan.
No,
Pay for that.
it would be $5 million from the town to get $5 million from the state.
Yeah, sorry, 5 or $2.5 million.
You're helping, don't apologize.
Probably $5 million. However you want to put it. So anyway, there's no free money. The other part is the state is not some magical entity from which grows money on a tree, right? So guess where all that money came from?
Yeah.
So.
Thank you. I promise this gentleman he can speak. I will let him do it.
Madam Moderator, the chair of the committee was happy to respond to that question.
Okay.
Sorry for being blinded by that.
That's fine. You can go first, he says.
My name is Michael Giordano, and my question is, the Conservation Act, Community Preservation Act states that the property tax surcharge can range from a low of 1% to a high of 3%. I'd like to know why 3% is chosen.
Can someone answer that? Mr. Romanowski?
On the prior gentleman's questions or comments, I think the only thing I want to respond to that is, we are, like you stated, already paying these funds going in that we're going to be receiving back. It comes out of tax stamps. So we're paying into tax stamps at the state level. Other towns that have adopted the CPA are collecting those funds that we help contribute to. So there's that.
So it's not bad to annually get back there.
To Mr. Giovanni's question, I forget what the question
1%, 3%.
Oh, 1%, 3%. As Mark stated, it goes through various rounds of disbursement. The first round is a 1% round, and you only get a certain amount of the funds for that month. Second round gives you opportunity to collect more money back. And the third round lets you get up to. Second round is 3%. Third round is 3%. The lower you are.
You speak in the microphone, please.
The first round is based on anybody that participates, any community that's adopted the act. The second round is based on anybody that's participating in it at the 3% level. The third round is at the 3% level plus your decile ranking, which is based on essentially whether you're a poor or non-resident. So the poorer you are, the more you get of the third round. But you have to be 3% to be eligible for anything past the first round. So as a committee, we all, and I still agree, we all agree it's really not worth entering into unless you're at 3% because the match isn't significant enough to warrant reasonably.
Thank you.
So it's 3% or nothing in our mind.
Thank you. The question has been called. Before we call the question, the vote of the selectmen, please.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The Board of Selectmen voted to recommend this article 3-2.
And with the two people who chose not to support, be interested in giving their reasons.
Yes, Ms. Rowe, I was one of the people. I'd say that I voted no throughout the entire process. I just think that we shouldn't be adding surcharge to real estate taxes at this time with the economy. And I'm also, I'm concerned for our fire station that we need to refurbish. That's going to be approximately $8 million, and that's going to be coming up soon. And I think for me, that's a good use of our money, and this just isn't a good use of money.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I also voted no, that I would not recommend this article, and I thought with the economy being the way it is, it's a terrible time to be raising taxes on people. I also had a fundamental problem. All the property owners pay these fees when they purchase property, and you don't really notice it because there's so many pages and you sign your name to so many things. But there's a fee, and it all goes, they're correct. We all pay into this CPA fund. The only people who are able to benefit from that fund are the people that voluntarily raise their taxes 3%. And that sounds like extortion to me. I'm not sure why the money from the property owners in town didn't automatically come back to the community to be used for a capital project.
Thank you. Finance Committee vote?
Finance Committee recommended 6-0.
Okay. Madam Moderator? Yes.
May I take a moment to say why I voted for it?
You certainly may.
Thank you. There is no good time, honestly. I mean, we've had the discussions. We all recognize the water main, the fire department. There is no good time. There never is. Even in the best of times, it's not a good time. I feel that we cannot stop working to invest in Winchendon, regardless of the time. And that's why I voted for this, so that it would come before us. I'm a registered voter as well, so that we, the people, could have a say. There is no good time, but we still need to invest. Thank you.
I don't want to leave the other two selectmen on if they want to come.
I voted for this, and I voted for this on financial reasons, because when I look at it in a straight financial way, it's a good investment. It's a good return on money. But I also understand that it's up to each voter in this hall to look at your taxes and decide for yourself, is this a good thing for me right now or isn't? And I hope you vote the way you feel tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Okay, ready for the vote. If you are in favor of Article 5, the Community Preservation Act as presented, press 1 for yes. If you are opposed, press 2 for no. Please vote now. And this is a majority, as I said. And it's yes, 38%, 62% opposed. Thank you to the committee for your hard work. Maybe at some point it will come back. Article 6, Chairwoman Labrie.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Where am I? Myself included. All right, I move that the town, please note, this is a non-binding referendum, which means that a yes vote does not state that this will happen. A no vote does not state it will not happen. This will give us guidance as to the body here, how they feel they would like to proceed on this issue. Non-binding referendum. I move that the town vote to recommend the Board of Selectmen seek a grant and other available funds for the purpose of making certain improvements to the Whitney Pond Dam, such that water levels in the Whitney Pond Dam will be higher and restored to the levels obtained when the dam was originally installed, rather than proceeding with a more cost-effective repair of the existing dam with available funds that would keep the water level at its current lower level, but permit the dam to continue functioning as needed for the foreseeable future.
Do I hear a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded to move Article number 6 Select Person Marie, would you like to speak to your motion, please?
I would, thank you. Everyone should have received the handout when they came in. A lot of information, some background. The state has classified this as a high hazard dam by the DEP. So they're keeping an eye on it, keeping an eye on us. They recognize that it is a costly fix, or can be a costly fix. Even the basic is costly. I'm going to reiterate that. But up until now, and future as far as we can tell, they're looking over their shoulder. The design has already been done for this, and that's paid by the DEP. So the two options basically before us. The first part, regardless of how we look moving forward, on the page, this is necessary repairs with the Port Commission. Embankment, the spillway, training walls, and the channel. So with regard to the necessary repairs, we're looking at about $3 million. The reason that we're bringing this before this evening is because in the design process, the engineer has reached a point where they came to the town and said, okay, we're at this point in the design, we can just continue doing this, or we can do this. And that's why we're here this evening talking about this. So if you flip the page for the spillway capacity alternatives, that's where the difference comes in. The overtopping protection is what will keep the dam, and anyway, the photos here, but please correct me if I misspeak, at its present level. The image on the very last page, the picture that says Whitney Pond after, that's the current level. That was after the ice sheet damaged the pond dam back in around 2007. So if we leave the spillway as is and repair it just as it is, that's another $3.1 million. So to maintain it, we're looking at 6.1. The Whitney Pond before is an image of what the pond looked like prior to that dam giving way. The advantage, there's pros and cons to both. They've been outlined under your spillway capacity alternatives. The crest gate would allow us to return to the historic level, or higher than it is now, to allow for additional recreation. It's a beautiful asset to the town. However, it comes with a cost. To put the crest gate in, it's additional $7.2 million. That would rebuild the spillway and install a mechanical gate. You see the pros and cons of both options. So option one would be 6.1. Option two, 6.1 million. And option two would be about 10.2. 13. I apologize.
Thank you. Mr. Crowe, would you like to speak to the article?
I think he's going to correct me. My apologies for missing.
So, right now, what's there is 6.1 million is repairs. That keeps the water level as right now. When you go over Glen Allen Street Bridge, you see dirt on both sides. When the dam was higher, that dirt was covered. You didn't see as much of the erosion that's happening. To put the press back in, it's going to do one of two things. It's going to raise the water level. It's going to allow you to have fish back in there again, and so on and so forth. It is a pricey tag to have it at 7.2 million. So you'd be looking total about 13 million if you put the crest gate in. So you're 6.1 million just to do repairs, keep the water level as is, and you would add the 7.2 to that 6.1. That would make it so that you would have the higher water levels. If we did nothing, we could potentially lose where Duty Walt is now, where the full spit room is gonna be going. It's gonna take out the walls on that side. Those walls are in poor shape. They're starting to deteriorate. And with the way we've been getting storms now, it's gonna keep washing it out. So we've already received money from DEP. The money that we received from DEP is paying for the current design. Like Mr. Labrie said, this just tells us what direction the taxpayers want to go. I don't want to make a $7.2 million decision. I brought it to the town manager, who brought it to the board of the selectmen, and we feel that this is the town goal because it's the town's money. So we're just looking for some clarification. But with the Crestgate comes some liabilities because it has to be raised and lowered depending on water levels, depending on storms, depending on winters. So it's not simple, you just leave it and you're good. There's a whole operating procedure for it that has to be taken into effect because you can damage properties upstream. So I just wanted all the facts to be out there to make sure that people understand that. You know, it might look nice to have a higher water level, but there is some liability with that.
Thank you. Does anyone, yes? Can you come up to the mic, please?
You said the DEP is paying for the design, is that for the architectural design, or is that for keeping it as it is now with the repairs to the first $6 million?
So DEP did give us a rate for the design. There's no increase in cost whether we.
Engineer design?
Yes. No, it's bid ready specs. So we will have this ready to bid, ready to go out. Once we have bid ready specs, we can reapply to DEP. They usually give grants up to $1 million for this style of work. So the town's still going to have money coming out of their pocket, but DEP can take a small chunk out of it. But this is bid ready specs. We're not putting money back in later on to go for a design. It can go either way.
Thank you. Gentleman coming up to the mic. Mr. Crowe, why don't you just stick around in case the questions are in your area.
Hi, my name's Mike Evans. I live on West Street. I'm all for this damn thing to look pretty and stuff, but actually, I don't know if any of these other people have any water problems on your street, but I know the dam's one of the water problems. So let's try to get some of these streets fixed. I live on West Street, okay? There's a pothole that almost took my truck tire off the other day. Okay? So I'm all for this $13 million, but let's get the roads fixed first with all these leaks in the water system right now. That's what I do.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question? Please come forward. Did I see a hand going back there?
56 years, looking
Just
for
real
shit.
quick, I thought that the state had in their budget money to repair the just never authorized.
Sure, that's correct. So it was a bond authorization several years ago. I saw this pop up on social media a couple times as well, where the state had made a bond authorization, but effectively that's an unfunded commitment. And so until the governor votes actually release those funds, you never actually see that money. And we're not the only town that's run into that situation where you kind of think you won the lottery and you get this notice from the state saying that they're going to give you this big check, but the money never actually comes. And so, to Mr. Croto's credit, he did go out and knock on the state's door and ask them to release some of those funds. That's how we ended up securing funds for this design portion. But your recollection is correct. There was a perception that this was funded previously. And I would just want to highlight that and reiterate that the question this evening is non-binding. We're just looking for direction, so you're not voting to appropriate any funds. You're just giving us a direction to pursue future grants or other items.
Thank you. We have another question. Come on, Dan.
Good evening, it's been years. I have a question about funding itself. It's a segue to your question. What potentially could be the source of funding other than the town itself?
Sure, so there's a couple different opportunities. Obviously, the funding is the biggest piece here. The gentleman prior to you brought up a good point about the roads, and I would just want to highlight that the Capital Planning Committee is looking to make $1 million investment in the roads this year, upcoming, one of the largest in recent memory in Michigan. But as an aside, anytime we're looking at these projects, you're looking at more expenses than we have realistic ways to pay for them. And so the way this would get funded, more than likely, it would be, I imagine, some smaller portion of town funds, but more realistically, the bulk of it would be looking at grants, looking at different infrastructure monies that have come down the road from the feds over the past couple of years, things like ARPA dollars. Also looking at the state dam and seawall grant program, just trying to kind of chip away at this. Like any other project in town, I don't think there's been an instance that this team that we have in place now has gone and said that we expect the Winchton taxpayer to pick up the entire tab. We're going to go out there and scrap the money for it, so that's where it's going to come from.
Thank you. I think you're done, Mr. Proto. I don't see any more hands. Okay, did the selectmen take a vote on this?
We did, Madam Chair.
Okay, let's hear it.
And we voted 5-0 to recommend.
Thank you very much. How about the Finance Committee?
FinCom recommended 6-0.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations of the Selectmen and the Finance Committee. There will be no further discussion on this article. If you are in favor of Article 6 as presented, press 1 for yes. If you are opposed, press 2 for no. And I will reiterate, this is a majority vote, but is not binding, okay? And therefore, vote your choice. Okay, the polling is closed. 72% in favor, 28% no. That gives the selectmen some direction. Brody, you want to fight opponent?
Would the yes vote be to go for the cheaper option or more expensive? Because there's no clarity with this.
Sure, if you want to revote that, I had a couple people here asking the
Okay.
same. So to clarify, a yes vote would be to go for the more expensive option.
Okay, let's try this.
Everybody good now?
Okay, let's try this. If you want the more expensive option, press 1 for A, yes. If you want the cheaper option, press 2 for B, no. Vote now. Sorry about that. Okay. Does that Okay, so that's your non-binding vote.